Welcome everyone to our weekly Torah learning of spreading more light into the world. We always like to start off with giving because how we give, that's how Hashem will give to us. Let's give generously, so Hashem will give us generously. I'm going to put some coins in the tzedakah box. Please join me from home. We're also going to say some names for Tehillim, and we're including everyone who needs. Refuah Shalema for Chana Yenta Rivka Bas Shaindol, Chana Bela Bas Devorah, Yosef ben Devorah Leah, Yosef Yitzchak ben Bela, Razel Bas Hadas, Rafal Chaimer ben Sima Chasha, Yosef Shlomo ben Risha, Devorah Leah Bas Yafa Liba, Esther Bela Bas Yehudis Chana, Pesach ben David, and for Mercedes ben Esther, and everyone that needs. We also are dedicating the Tehillim for all the IDF incredible tzaddikim who are helping to eradicate evil, and Hashem should help them. All the chayalim and chayalot, Hashem should protect them. And we are also saying Tehillim from our full hearts that all the hostages should come home immediately, all the 101 alive and well. I do this class weekly in memory of my dear grandmother, Rivka Dina Bas Yosef Yehuda. I hope you're proud. Chaim Dober ben Betzalel. To save a life is saving a world, and he saved many in the Soviet Union. And my other grandmother, Bela Bas Betzalel. So we're going to say Psalm 20, Kapitel Chaf together. Lam Natseach Mizmar LeDavid, Yancha Adonai B'yam Tzara. Yes, B'yam Tzara. Although I'm going to start again. Okay, I'm going to point. Lost my train of thought. Lam Natseach Mizmar LeDavid, Yancha Adonai B'yam Tzara. Yisa Gevcha Shem Leheyakay V'yishlach Ezracha Mikaidesh Umitzian Yisadecha. Yiskar kol min chaysecha ve'elascha yidash nesela. Yitain lachachel v'avevcha v'chol tzescha yimale. Niranana b'yeshuasecha v'shem Eloheinu nidgo yimale Adonai kol mishalesecha. Ata yadaiti ki yashia Adonai mishicha yanehu mishmei kachay b'perei seisha yiminai. Ela v'recha v'ela v'asusim v'anachnu b'shem Adonai Eloheinu naskir. Hema karo v'na falo v'anachnu kamenu v'nisaydad. Adonai Hashia hamelach yanenu v'yam karenu. The Tzemach Tzedek said, if we only knew the power of Tehillim, we would say it day and night. So we are going to start off with a short film for Chai Elul. It's interesting. Today is September 18th, and 18 is Chai, and Chai Elul comes out on Shabbos. So it's very appropriate tonight that we have this video talking about Chai Elul. So we're going to pull it up. We're now going to press play. Wow, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. So I'm just going to give a little intro to our guest speaker, which I'm so excited that we have on tonight. She's someone that we mention weekly on our class in our thank yous. We thank Hashem, we thank the Rebbe, we thank our ambassadors. I thank my mashpia for the class, that's Shaindy Jacobson, and we thank everyone that's involved. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Shaindy. Some of you might not know. Shaindy is the director of the JLI Women's Studies Division of Rosh Chodesh Society. She has been involved in the field of Jewish education for many, many years. She taught at Beis Rivka school, high school, and seminary, and is serving as a community advocate and counselor for Operation Survival, a substance abuse prevention program. Shaindy lectures around the world, educating women about their Jewish heritage and its practical applications to their daily lives. She is also an accomplished musician and composer and frequently accompanies her lectures with song and music. We're so lucky to have Shaindy on tonight. The whole class started really from a Farbrengen that we started a Hasidic gathering in Brooklyn Heights when I lived there. And Shaindy Jacobson came down. She was so gracious to host my birthday party with the entire Brooklyn Heights community. And we had an idea to bring JLI to Brooklyn Heights, but then Hashem had another idea to bring JLI and light to the whole world. So everyone is benefiting from these classes. They are very much in sync with JLI's style, and we're very honored and humbled. Shaindy's also someone that I got to see my whole childhood walking by my house. She is, I hope it's okay I'm saying this, but she is one of my biggest role models. So thank you, Shaindy, for being here and speaking about this topic that I love, Chai Elul, two incredible tzaddikim of our time.
Wow. Aya, thank you so much. If I knew you were going to say all that, I would have come on afterwards.
I meant every word I said.
You're very kind. Thank you so much. It's really, really an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to be here with Aya and with each and every one of you. It really makes me very happy to be part of this. So thank you so much. So we have a lot of things that we can speak about in this short window of time that we have. So just to begin, I want to mention one thing, which is obviously everything is divine providence, is what we call hashgacha pratis. Everything is really divinely ordained. It happens to be that the 18th of Elul, as we heard before, is going to be on this coming Shabbos. And today in the Jewish calendar, it is the 15th of Elul, Tesvav Elul. And in the Chabad world, that also is a special day. The 15th of Elul is the day that the United Lubavitcher Yeshiva was founded in its originality, was founded by the Rebbe Rashab, which is the father of the previous Rebbe, Rabbi Shalom Dov Ber. And this was one of, I mean, it's silly for me to say greatest, everything was great. This was a very big crowning achievement for the Jewish community and for the Chabad community. And one of the points that I want to just begin with, because it so fits into the month of Elul that we're in, which we'll speak about soon, and it so fits into what we're going to have a little Farbrengen about, which is the 18th of Elul. If you want to take this founding of the United Lubavitcher Yeshiva, as in Hebrew it is called Tomchei Tmimim, and today, by the way, any yeshiva that is founded on these principles by Chabad, anywhere in the world, these are all considered part of the same yeshiva. The real clarion call of the Rebbe Rashab for this yeshiva was that the students should be students who will not only be feeling like students, but they will be students who are soldiers, who go out and fight the Milchemes Beis David. They go out and they fight the war of King David, which really means they fight the war of bringing Mashiach. And every student, be it a boy or a girl, be it a young man, a young woman, an older man, an older woman, and everything in between, has this mission to be a student of God and to know that he or she has to fight in the army of Hashem, in the army of God, to bring goodness and kindness and holiness to this world. So we are gathering by divine providence on this special day. So this makes us really feel personally that we have our mission, and it does not matter where you live, how old you are, what kind of background you come from, what you're doing right now, or what you're planning to do in 5 years and 10 years or tomorrow. What matters is that every day when we wake up, And every day before we go to sleep, we remind ourselves what our mission is. We take stock of what our mission was today. Did we accomplish it? Can we do better? And we resolve when we go to sleep at night that tomorrow when I wake up, I will do the very best that I can. It's almost uncanny how much this fits into the insane world that we're living with right now, which is, of course, we all know, hard to believe, actually impossible to believe that we are almost 1 year since October 7th, that terrible fateful day, as the world calls it. We know the anniversary was October 7th. The Hebrew calendar will be Shmini Atzeres Simchas Torah. And hopefully by then we will certainly be way after the war. We will all be together in our holy land. But this also is a message to us that for those of us who are not on the front lines in our holy country, we are still soldiers. We are still fighting on the front lines. We are fighting with the ammunition that God gave us, which is the study of Torah and the ability to do mitzvot and to share this with everybody else. So here we are preparing. It's exactly 2 weeks before Rosh Hashanah. It's exactly 3 days before the 18th of Elul. And every single day we get a little bit closer to the new year that will certainly bring us incredible, amazing goodness and tremendous blessings. Now, let's go for a moment and think about this month, which will introduce us to what Chai Elul, what the 18th day of Elul really is all about, and how it ties in so incredibly beautifully with the birth of the Hasidic movement in general, which was the birth of the Baal Shem Tov in 1698, as we actually saw in the video. He was the father, the originator of the entire Hasidic movement in the entire world. And then 47 years later, the Alter Rebbe, Rabbi Shner Zalman of Ladi, was born on the very same birthday. He considered the Baal Shem Tov his spiritual grandfather, and he was the founder of the branch of Hasidus, as we know it today, Chabad Hasidus, the philosophy that is based on the 3 attributes, Chochmah, Bina, Das, the 3 attributes that are housed in the seat of the mind. Okay, I know that in one of the previous classes, we spoke a little bit, there was a class that specifically addressed the concept of the month of Elul, but in order for us to really see the connection, I think it would be important for us to speak about the month of Elul, and before we speak about the 18th day of Elul. So we all know that the month of Elul, which is the word Elul, is made out of 4 letters, Aleph, Lamed, Vav, and Lamed. And there are many, many verses that this symbolizes. The most famous one, of course, is the one that comes from Song of Songs, Shir Hashirim. And that is Ani Lidodi Vidodi Li. Each of these 4 words begins with the first letter. Ani with the Aleph of the word of Elul, Lidodi the Lamed, Vidodi the Vav, Li the Lamed. I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me. We all know this sounds like, and it is, a beautiful piece of poetry, a beautiful love song. Anyone who has ever been in any relationship with somebody that they love can tell you that it's so beautiful and so perfect. I am to my beloved, and when I am to my beloved is to me. It's a reciprocal relationship. And this can only work 2 ways, of course, if somebody's going to have a relationship. It has to be from me to them and from them back to me. We know that this is, of course, not only between human beings, but this is obviously very symbolic of our relationship with God Almighty, with Hashem, who created the world. And we say, God, I am to my beloved. God, we are here for you, but please my beloved is to me. God, please be here for us and give us whatever we need. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the very beautiful story that's told about a chassid who was getting ready to go say slichus. That is the prayers of supplication that we begin to say a week before. Those Sephardic Jews actually say it the whole month of Elul. Ashkenazi Jews begin the week before Rosh Hashanah. And we say this, we begin very, very late at night. It's really 1 a.m. already on the Saturday night before. If it's only a few days before, we do it the week before the new year. And everybody, even if you're sleeping, people wake up and they go to the shul, they go to the synagogue to say these prayers. And the story is told about this very, very poor, poverty-stricken, very, very pious, humble, great Jew who didn't have much of anything but had amazing, incredibly strong belief. And he was praying and praying and preparing himself so that he would be ready in the right mood and in the right frame of mind to go to the synagogue to say these prayers of slichot, supplication. And before he's praying, he's crying, and before he leaves his house, he takes a little stool, he pushes it to the stove that was warming his house, he steps on it, and on his tippy toes, he puts his hand on the top of the place where the chimney comes out of, and he pulls down 2 heavy books, 2 ledgers. He takes down the ledgers, he sits down, he opens up one of them, and he begins to read. What does he say? He's reading out loud with tears in his eyes. God, I'm so sorry that I could have prayed better last, during this year. I could have I have very little, but I'm sure I could have found a few cents to give to charity. I'm sorry that I didn't do that. God, I hope you forgive me that when I was praying, I wasn't only concentrating on your greatness, but thoughts were creeping into my head. How will I pay my bills? How will I have money to buy medicine for my wife? How will I be able to feed my animals, etc., etc.? And he goes ahead and he says all of the things that he's very, very sorry that he did wrong that year. And he closes the ledger. Then he opens the second ledger. And what happens? He starts to read, God, I begged you, I asked you, please let me have a little more feed for my chickens so they would grow and they would lay eggs. But somehow you never gave me enough. I needed more ability to give my cow better food so that she would give milk that was richer, but I never had the ability. God, I asked you to, and he goes on and on and on about all the things that he asked God to do, but God did not do. And then he closes the second ledger. And then he lifts up his arms to heaven and he looks up to heaven and he says, God, you know what? I didn't fulfill everything that I promised, and you didn't fulfill everything that you promised. So, God, let's call it even. I forgive you and you forgive me. This is the month of Elul. I am to my beloved and my beloved is to me. This is the month where God, the King, is in the field. He is right here. We all know the very famous parable that we're told about this month, that the king, the great, mighty king, was traveling. He left his palace. He was traveling through the different countries. And now he's finally on his way back to his own city and to his own beautiful palace. And he says to the people, he lets out a call and he says, everybody, I'm traveling through the fields. Before I come home and go back into my palace, when you will not have access to me, I'll be off limits. Please come and greet me. Come and meet me in the field. I'll be there and I'll be waiting for you. And I will be in a very good mood. I'll be happy. My countenance will be shining. I'll be eager to hear, what do you want? And I will give you the opportunity to ask for whatever you want, and I will respond to you. Again, ani l'dodi v'dodi li. We make a vessel for God, and God gives himself to us. And in this month, God gives himself to us even before we make the vessel. He says, here I am. Come and catch me, because this is your opportunity. So this is the month that we're in right now. The month is halfway over right now, but we still have another half a month. We still have 2 weeks in which we don't need to make any appointments. We don't need to have any ins. We don't need to pull. We don't have to call somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody. All we have to do is come to God and say, God, this is what I need. Please give it to me. We each have our own way of doing this. We do it by praying, by speaking to God in our own language, by saying psalms. There are many customs. People go to the grave sites of holy Jews and ask them to intervene for them through God. We give charity. We do whatever we can, but we know that we have an opportunity. We don't want to squander it. We know that God is listening, and we can ask for whatever we want. Now we are coming to the 18th day of Elul. What is that day? As I said, it is the birthday of 2 of the greatest luminaries in the entire world, of the Jewish world, and of course of the world of Hasidus. As you noticed in that little video that Chaya played before the class, it said there that many have looked upon, or still may look upon, the month of Elul with a dread or a fear, God forbid. One of the greatest things one of the greatest things that happened with the bringing of Hasidic philosophy into the world is it shows us, it teaches us that we don't have to dread, we don't have to fear God. We have to have awe for God. But God is our Father, and he loves us. And when we love somebody very much and they love us in return, we have a connection to them that is not one of how we translate it as fear. It's much more something that's just awesome. You know, it's interesting. Today in our era that we live in, everyone uses the word awesome like this. You know, everything is awesome. Everything is awesome. You know, whatever it is. But the word awe is really awesome on its own. It means way more than we give it credit for. It's something that is really, it's very, very special. It's very, very, it's more than the norm. It's epic, but it's also, it has a measure of closeness to us. So here we are. What did the Baal Shem Tov bring to the world with this great understanding of the awesomeness of God? He showed us that God is here for every single Jew, the simpleton or the genius, the greatest Torah scholar or the person who knows nothing at all. God is here for all of us, and he has so much love and so much pleasure and enjoyment from his children, each and every one, when they behave their best and when they do the best that they can do, regardless of, they don't have to match up to somebody else. Every one of us has a soul, and each and every one of our souls is beautiful. You know why? Because what is our soul? Let's go back to the creation of the human being. On the 6th day of creation, it says that God created Adam. Honestly, it is often erroneously translated as God created Adam, God created man. That's not really correct. God created Adam means that God created human. God created the human. And then he divided the human and he made man and woman. But what really made the human alive? It says Vayipach ba'apo. God himself blew a special spirit into the nostrils of these humans. What does that mean? What was this special spirit? The spirit, of course, is the spirit of God himself. In Hebrew, it's called a Chelek Elokah Mima al Mamish. It is actually a piece of God himself. What is this piece? It's what we know today. We call it our soul, our neshama. All of us have a soul. We don't see the soul. We see the body. We go and we look at another person. Immediately, our brains are somehow wired to right away start to size up the other people. Are they good looking? Are they not? Are they tall? Are they short? Are they white? Are they green? Are they black? Are they yellow? Are they smiling? Are they happy? Are they wise? Are they not wise? Etc., etc. This is all absolutely irrelevant when we think about how God created us. He created us with an outer look, that is true. But what really counts is our inner soul. And that is really what the concept of Hasidus, of Hasidic philosophy, came to teach us. That just like we celebrate the human being, we celebrate the soul of the human being, we also have to take the teachings of the Torah and the mitzvot and celebrate the soul of the Torah and the soul of the mitzvot. How much more enjoyable and beautiful is it to study something when you truly understand it? How much more beautiful is it to do a mitzvah when we understand that we are connecting to God through this mitzvah? You know, it is said that you cannot really love someone or you cannot really love something unless you really, truly know it. Think about that for a moment. We all know how true that is. If you love someone, the more you get to know them, the more you're amazed at how special they are and how much you love them. If you have a passion for something, the more you work in this passion, the more you are connected to this passion, the more you start to understand it, the more you are drawn to it. This is the exact same idea of the more we understand what the Torah is, the more we can try to understand what God is. Not that we're ever going to understand, but to understand enough that we can learn to really, we want to connect with him. We want to pray to him. We want to be with him. The more we do that, the more connected we are. And that was the whole concept of bringing Hasidus into the world. Of course, we know some of the most heartwarming, beautiful, beautiful stories about the Jews in the era of the Baal Shem Tov. Of course, those are the stories about the simple Jews. Some of them were so simple, they barely could read. Some had to work from when they were very young children. They didn't have a chance to study. But what was so unique and so special about them was that they truly loved God with their hearts and souls. And how were they able to do that so much? Because they had no ego of their own. They did not feel that they were something. They felt that they were here to serve God. They felt that they were here to do whatever they could do, and they would try to do better and better and better. One of the beautiful stories that is related about the saying of the book of Psalms of Tehillim, which is so connected to what we're speaking about now. It is said that during the time of the Baal Shem Tov saw a vision that there was a little town somewhere, a little hamlet, that for some reason there was a terrible, terrifying decree that was put upon this hamlet. For some reason, he saw in this vision that all the people in this very peaceful, small village of very, very kind, good people, they were destined, all of them were destined to perish. And he could not bear this. And so he tried very, very hard with his mystical powers to somehow repeal this terrible decree. And he tried, and he sent he sent his students to go and scout out the area. And then he had another vision. It says that he was able to see visions up in heaven. And what did he see? He was going to beg for mercy for this little hamlet. He was going through the different gates in heaven. And he came to a certain place where he had never seen such a brilliant light like he saw emanating from this particular area in heaven. And he stopped and he said to the angels, "What is this? Whose place in heaven is this? Who did such great things in their life that this part of heaven is reserved for them after their 120 years when they come back to their place in heaven, that they merit to get this particular place? They must be the greatest Jew in the world. Who is this?" And he was told, this part of Gan Eden, this part of the Garden of Eden belongs to a very, very simple villager who lives in this town. This is the Garden of Eden. This is his space that he's going to get after the end of his life. And he said, why? What did he do to deserve to get this? And he was told, what did he do? We'll tell you what he did. Every single day, from the moment he woke up in the morning until he was ready to go to sleep, he was very busy with menial labor. He worked many, many hours. He would sit and he was a smith, and he would make wheels for wagons, and he would do all kinds of menial labor. Where he sat, it wasn't necessarily clean. It was a broken down, ramshackle hut. But while he sat and worked, he would say so much Tehillim. He would say so many Psalms all day long that it became second nature to him, and he was able to say the whole thing by heart. And while he worked and while he slaved, he managed to say the whole book of Psalms every day 5 times. When the Baal Shem Tov heard this, he sent his students and he said to them, "Go travel to this and this place where this Jew lives and go and ask him a question." And he told them which question to ask. So his students went and they traveled to this place, and nobody really even knew who this guy was. He was a quiet individual, didn't make any fuss about himself, and finally asked some people. He tried to describe, and they said, "Oh, you mean that poor beggar who sits and spins wheels and works with iron. He makes metals. He's a smith. You mean that guy? Go to the end of the town, and at the very edge of the town, you'll see a broken down hut. That's where you'll find this Jew." And the students went there, and sure enough, they came to this hut, and there they go. They open up the door, and this man is sitting there, and exactly as they heard, he sat there. He was egoless. He did not take himself too seriously, but what he did was he sat there and his mouth was moving the entire time. They came to him and they said, "Rebbe, sir, we would like to ask you a question." So he finished he finished one of the chapters, and he looked at them and he said, "Sure, what would you like?" And they said to him, "We would like to ask you, if you knew that by giving up your olam haba, by giving up your portion in the world to come, you would be able to save a whole village of men, of innocent men, women, and children, would you give up your portion in the world to come?" And without missing a beat, he looked at them and he said, "Of course I would," because he didn't think he had any special portion in the world to come. He was a very simple person, and that's what he thought of himself. And it says in that second, in that very moment that he said he would give it up, the decree in heaven was abolished, and the village that was destined to perish, their lives were renewed and they lived a happy, long, very prosperous life. Of course, we can ask the question, what happened to this Jew? Did he lose his world to come, this special place? And of course, the answer is no. He gained an even greater place because of his willingness to help other people. So this was the life force that the Baal Shem Tov brought to people who were worn down, who were really, they were about to collapse. Their lives were so difficult. They loved God and they loved the Torah. They had no spirit. They worked so hard, they were beaten down, but he brought the spirit back to them. He made them understand that studying Torah and doing the best you can with your heart and with your soul was what really counted and what really mattered. And he started to slowly bring into the world the inner secrets of the Torah, showing the world, showing the Jewish people that having joy in doing a mitzvah is what really makes the mitzvah come alive. And then, of course, we know that on this day, 47 years later, by the way, the Baal Shem Tov lived for the first 36 years of his life. He lived as one of the hidden tzaddikim. There was a group of hidden, nobody knew who they were. They looked like ignoramuses. It says he acted like he was an ignorant clay digger. Nobody knew of his greatness. One of the most poignant, beautiful things that we learn about the Baal Shem Tov, it makes you cry when you read it, is that he was a little boy, all alone in the world. His father was about to leave this world. And the last words that his father, whose name was Rabbi Eliezer said to his little son, he said to him, "My son," these are his last words, "never fear anything but God himself, and love every Jew with all your heart and soul." These were the last words that Rabbi Eliezer said to his little 5-year-old boy. Never fear anything but God himself, and love every Jew with all your heart and soul. And then he passed away. And the Baal Shem Tov and his Baal Shem Tov's Rabbi Eliezer's friends took care of the little boy. It says that he very, very much loved to hang out in the forests outside with them. And he was a absolute, I don't have words to say this, tremendous genius, a tremendous Torah scholar, etc., etc. He was told on his 36th birthday, which was also, of course, on the 18th of Elul, that now it is time for him to reveal himself to the world and to let the world know that the philosophy of Hasidism is time for it to shine forth into the world. And like I said, 47 years later, the Alter Rebbe, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Ladi, was born. And he was the one who he founded I guess you can say the sect, the division of Chabad Hasidus, which is, of course, as we said earlier, this Hasidic philosophy founded on the three cerebral attributes of Chachma, Bina, Da'at, which is wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. And what is the actual, what is I'm going to use this word, but I don't mean it that way. What is the Bible of Hasidism? It is, of course, the Tanya, which was penned by the Alter Rebbe, the Shneur Zalman of Ladi, and that is the book, the foundation, the core of the Chabad Hasidic philosophy. So here we have a day that is so amazing that it happens to be the 18th day. because we all know that 18 in Hebrew, to spell 18, you have the letters Het and Yod, 8 and 10, which makes 18. Hi Elul, the 18th day of Elul, what is it? It actually comes, these two luminaries were born on this day, it comes to bring life into the month of Elul. Very interestingly enough, we are taught from 18th of Elul until Rosh Hashanah, that's 12 days. What are these 12 days for? We're taught that every day, beginning on the 18th of Elul until the last day, which is the 29th, of course, of Elul, each one of these days is symbolic of one of the months of the Hebrew calendar. We have 12 months, beginning with Tishrei, Heshvan, Kislev, Tevet, Shvat, Adar, Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Av, and Elul. Described as follows, that the 18th day, we have to take that on that day, we have to go back and think about this past year, the first day, the first month, which was Tishrei, 11 months ago, and think back, what did we do last year during this month of Tishrei? And review what we did and tell ourselves that next year, Tishrei, we will do even better. On the 19th of Elul, we go back and we say, what happened on the second month this past year in Heshvan? And we do the same thing. And this is what we do every day until we come to the last day of Elul, which is, of course, corresponds to this month that we're in right now, that we are getting ready to complete as we get ready to greet the new year, which begins with the new month, of course, of Tishrei. I also want to just comment here for a moment that if you wonder why is the new year beginning with Tishrei, why don't we begin it in Heshvan or in Kislev? And we're taught that, going back to what we said earlier, that that God created the world in 6 days, and on the 7th day he rested, it was Shabbat. When did God actually create the world? During which time period in the calendar? And we're taught that God actually created it, that, there is a difference of opinion, but in general, this is how we explain it. God created the world, started on the 25th of Elul. That was day 1, day 2, day 3. And his greatest crowning creation was that of creating the human being. That was on the 6th day, which is the last day of Elul, and the world was at its best, at its newest. The world was launched, so to speak, on Rosh Hashanah. So here we have the entire world, the entire year, the entire universe, all literally at our fingertips right here during these few weeks of the month of Elul. And we have the king right here in the field with us, ready to greet us and telling us, yes, you can ask for whatever you want, and I will do my best to give it to you. This is a moment, all of us were born to parents. If God helped us, and we were very lucky, we were born to very loving, wonderful parents. Unfortunately, not everybody had that wonderful experience or that luxury. But I think we all know that the general way that the world is set up, that when children need things, they have to ask their parents for what they need. And we all know that we all know this in our relationships every day, including right now, between ourselves and our children, between ourselves and our spouses, even between ourselves and our bosses, doesn't matter who. When we want something, and we really want it, we are smart about it, and we figure out when to ask whom for what. Meaning to say, I think most of us intuitively understand that if somebody's you want something from someone, but they're very hungry, or they're very nervous, or they're not in the mood, you gauge their feeling, and you realize maybe now is not such a good time to ask. But when they're happy and they're comfortable and you see that they're in a generous mood, that's the perfect time to ask. When my children were very small, they once wanted something. I have no recollection of what it was, but I could tell you that it was bedtime and they were literally driving me crazy. And they kept saying, could we have it? Could we have it? Will you give it to us? Will you get it for us? And finally, I did not want to answer them. So I didn't want to be committal. So I said, you know what? My answer is maybe. Go to sleep. My answer is maybe. And they said, but why? I said, I'll tell you tomorrow. Right now, my answer is maybe. Okay, they finally went into bed. And a few minutes later, I'm passing by their bedroom. And I hear my son telling my daughter, don't worry, we're for sure going to get it. And my daughter says, how you know? Mommy said maybe. He says, because when dad says maybe, it means no. But when mom says maybe, it means yes. This is the time of year that we're in, that we can say, maybe will be yes. God will grant our wishes. God will say, hopefully, what we want him to say. Does not mean that we don't have to work at it. It means we do have to be as good as we can. We do have to try to do everything that he wants us to do. We do have to have this very, very special faith. We do have to think about what the Baal Shem Tov's father, Rabbi Eliezer, said to his son. Do not fear anything but God himself. Think about what's going on in the world now and see how true, how strong, how incredibly anchoring are these words today. No matter where we find ourselves, we all know that in this world, there are, besides all of our history, we're living it again. We are living in a world of turmoil. We are living in a world of lies. We are living in a world that perhaps refuses to recognize the truth and the beauty that does exist here by just pushing it aside or making sure that it's not seen by anybody else. But we do know that as Jews, if we are proud of who we are, if we are strong, if we are the soldiers that God wants us to be, like the yeshiva students of the yeshiva that the Rebbe founded on this day, what happens is that we will prevail. I want to share one last thought because I know the kind of world that we're living in today. And it's very, very hard. We can hear things, we can read things, we can see things, but then we go back to our own little world, and it's very, very hard to survive in a world where everybody is just not interested in the truth and in the reality and seeing who the Jewish people really are. You know, it says, I once heard a beautiful word, beautiful little story, anecdote, that a particular person, a very pious Jew, a really wonderful person, he had a child who decided to part ways with the way that he was raised. And the father was beside himself. Why? He understood that, you know, a child grows up and a child has to do what everyone has their own path in life. But he felt that he must have failed this child. Why? Because it says that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You know, that has a lot of, you know, that has a lot of meaning. We can translate that many ways, but we know that means that, you know, if the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, then, you know, the parent is the tree and the apple is the child. So he felt terrible. And he wrote a note, or perhaps, I don't know, or maybe he went and he had an audience with the Rebbe, I'm not sure. And he cried bitterly. And he said, I don't know what, I'm so saddened by this, because if the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, then I am the tree. Then I must be rotten to the core. or I must have really not done the right thing, or otherwise my offspring would be better. And the Rebbe told me something beautiful, which I think is it's so real for the world that we live in. The Rebbe said to him, yes, it is said that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. However, that only applies when we're talking about normal winds. When there are gusts of winds, normal ones, and the fruit, it hovers, it shakes the branches, and it falls off. So it doesn't fall far from the tree. However, when there are tremendous storms and there's massive gales of wind, it doesn't apply then, because then the fruit is carried very far away. That's not a normal circumstance. Rebbe said, today we live in an era where there are massive storms. There are massive gales of wind. And so instead of beating ourselves up, what we have to do is figure out, how can we help each other? How can we stay the people that we are? The only way really to do that is through love. That's why we're taught. That was what the Baal Shem Tov said, what the Baal Shem Tov's father said to him on his deathbed. Love every Jew with all your heart and soul. You can never, ever go wrong by doing that. That is one of the most amazing teachings in the Torah. As we know that Rabbi Akiva said, V'ahavta l'rayacha kamocha. Love your fellow Jew as you love yourself. How can you accomplish this? By going back to how we began. We can accomplish this by understanding what God did when he created us. He gave us a piece of himself. He blew as we said in the beginning, he blew a part of his holy soul into us. We all have that exact same soul. All of our souls are beautiful. Every single one of them. And therefore, if I'm a part of you and you're a part of me, how could I not love you as I love myself? So I want to wish everybody that as we approach the new year, as we approach the 18th of Elul, which will be on Shabbat, as we approach the new year of Rosh Hashanah, and we spend our time preparing for it, we should pray for ourselves. We should pray for all our brothers and sisters across the entire world, particularly, of course, our brothers and sisters, as Chaya said so beautifully earlier, in Eretz Yisrael, in our holy land in Israel. God should protect and defend every single person in the IDF, every single hostage. Everyone should be blessed with everything they want, everything they need. This should be the year that all of us, the entire world, gathers together this Rosh Hashanah in our third holy temple, the beautiful third Beit HaMikdash, in Yerushalayim, in Jerusalem, in our holy land, in peace, prosperity, security, and with tremendous amount of love for each other. So I want to wish everybody a kasiva v'chasima tova, a shana tova u'mesuka, a happy, healthy, prosperous, beautiful, very, very sweet year. Chaya, thank you so much for the opportunity to connect with all these beautiful Jewish women.
Thank you. That was really, really so special. And you gave us a taste. It's a small taste of sorry, I got a call on my phone. Who the Alter Rebbe was and who the Baal Shem Tov was. And they were very, very connected. The Alter Rebbe referred to the Baal Shem Tov as his Zayda. And he never actually met him, but there's so much history, so amazing. We should research it on Chabad.org. I just want to say a short thing about the Tanya. Rabbi Gordon is one of my favorite Tanya teachers, and he teaches Tanya on Chabad.org. He's no longer here with us, but we know when a soul lives on, how do they live on if we can still learn their teachings? And everyone's learning his teachings every day, Rabbi Gordon. And he teaches the Tanya. It's really for a simple person like me to understand. So anyone can learn Tanya. And the Alter Rebbe promised that anyone that learns this Tanya, they will have a peace of soul. And I can tell you that it really, really works. And there are such practical things in the Tanya, and it goes through every single topic. And yes, it was written hundreds of years ago, and there's 53 chapters, and it took a really long time to write it. But how would we think that like this Tanya that was written so many years ago by the Alter Rebbe, that it applies to us today? But every topic is like as if it's current events, questions. And why did the Rebbe put it in a Tanya? Because in writing, because he had lines around the block pretty much every single day. And he was only one person, and there was so much that he can do. So he compiled the book, and he said, it's as if you're having a private audience with me when you learn my Tanya, and all the answers are in the Tanya. So I hope in honor of Chai Elul, we want to take something away, not just hear an amazing lecture, not just hear amazing words from Shaindy and stories, but really apply it to our lives. And I would really recommend that everyone look into learning Tanya, because it will enhance your life. It'll enhance your family. In fact, I shared this with Shaindy, and I think she'll like that we're sharing it tonight. In a few weeks' time, we are going to be sending out a pre-recording of, I've shared this story before, 55 years ago, there was a miracle with 8 boys from the Chabad, from Tamchei Tamimim, which you mentioned, from the Jewish religious schools. And they were coming back, they were going to do a mitzvah, and they were coming back for driving back in the old station wagon. It was the middle of the night because they wanted to get back for Seder. And in those days, they really took it, school was very important, Seder, like order was very important. So they got permission to go to the wedding it was basically like that they were going to give their word that they're going to be at Seder the next morning. And what happened that night, unfortunately, there was a tractor trailer that smashed into the gas tank, and the whole car engulfed in flames. Now, when the state trooper came, he wanted to know where all the bodies were. Now, thank God, every single one of those boys miraculously survived with the bracha of the Rebbe. And he even said he thought about the boys the night before, which we'll go into detail. But one beautiful little detail that was so important, in the car, my father sat in the front, and he went back to the site after. There was a Tanya that the entire outside was burnt, but the inside was intact. And the Tanya was one of the miracles, with many other miracles part of the story, that saved their life. So I want to say, knowing the story, I'm here because of the story. Like, I wouldn't be here if not for the miracle of the Rebbe and the Tanya. Tanya saves lives. So it could save your life spiritually. It could save your life physically. So I will recommend everyone to get a Tanya, put it in your cars, put it in your home, have a Tanya, but don't just have it, learn it, because it really, this story is incredible. I got each person that's still alive. One of the gentlemen unfortunately passed away, but every single one shared their encounter of the accident, and we're putting it together. And in a few weeks' time, we are going to release it. So in honor of Chai Elul, I'm going to ask everyone to commit to, it doesn't have to be just one part of Tanya, something about Tanya, learn it. You could tap into it. If you need resources, my Aunt Chani Lipsker has a Tanya class. If you want to send recordings, I could send you some. I have them on my phone. There's Chabad.org, tons and tons of incredible teachers. Tap into it. And I want to thank Shaindy for this incredible night, and for really saving me that we had a speaker. We had so many different ideas for tonight, but Hashem decides at the end of the day who's the speaker. So this came about yesterday, as we confirmed it yesterday at 7:30, I believe, when I sent out the flyer, and we made it. And thank God, I'm very lucky to have someone that brings so much light to the world, to share the light of the Alter Rebbe and the Baal Shem Tov. And like she said, that the most important thing out of this is that they gave over their life with love. And it works. The proof is in the pudding. It never fails. So thank you, Shaindy, so much. Thank you, everyone. I hope everyone taps into Chai Elul, and I hope everyone taps into The King is in the Field, which is, we don't have that much time left, but really talk to God, like Shaindy said, how you feel put. It could be in your mind, it could be with prayer, but I really recommend everyone to learn chapter 27 of Tehillim. We're meant to say it twice a day, and if you read the English of it, it's beyond. So I really recommend that, and to really tap into prayers. In fact, I just want to finish off by saying about Kapitel Chaf Zayin, which is 27. One of the hostages, I forget her name, if anyone wants to write it in the chat, before she went in, before she was taken hostage, she felt for a while that something really bad was going to happen in her life. Her neshama was preparing her, and she was very afraid, and I believe she was guided to say Kapitel Chaf Zayin, I don't know by who, which is Kapitel 27, and she's not someone that was able to, like, read things by heart or memorize, but somehow she was able to memorize it, and she was captive for a really long time, and many days and hours, and every single moment that she could, she said Chaf Zayin, and she literally feels that it saved her life, that kapitel of Tehillim, and her boyfriend is still captive, so he should be free. And listen, these things have like meaning. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and I hope you gained something from tonight. And I just want to go with thank you. So firstly, I want to thank Hashem and the Rebbe for giving me this opportunity to bring light to the world with the help of all the amazing guest speakers and stories and journeys. Very humbled. I want to thank Shaindy Jacobson, the mashpia of the class, for really being an incredible mentor and supporter and really such a dear friend. I want to thank all the ambassadors of the class. An ambassador, for those that ask me what it is, it's someone that spreads the class by sharing it on your WhatsApp chats, your status, your Facebook, wherever you have a network of people to share it, and you get to spread light. And in return, I share my merits of the class with you. And this class spread really, really far. I want to thank my dear husband for being such a big part of this class, sharing the channel, and really just being a support to me and everyone that tunes in weekly. So something that we started doing a while ago, but we dedicate it weekly now to Rabbi Kolarski. He unfortunately passed away, and his memory is going to live on through us until Mashiach comes, and it is. His wife spoke on our class, and she is a big supporter of this class. So we're going to send her well wishes and love, and she should see her husband with the coming of Mashiach. But we are going to do a roll call. He did it every single year by the kinnas for the men and the women, where Chabad emissaries came together and got fuel for the whole year. We do this every week. We get fuel for the whole week from these classes. So we are going to go ahead and say where we're from, and you can put it in the chat box as well. I was asked to please say that South Africa tunes in. So we have tonight with us, we have East Brunswick, New Jersey. We have Far Rockaway, New York, Ottawa, Mexico City, LA, California, Crown Heights, Glendale, California, Deerfield, Florida, Miami, and if anyone else wants to share where they're from, Crown Heights. Oh, I said Crown Heights, and Toronto. Wow, thank you everyone for tuning in. We had a very beautiful crowd tonight, and I'm looking forward that everyone should have light in Baltimore, light in their life in such a revealed way, and we need to bring Mashiach immediately. We also have San Diego, California. Keep him coming before we say goodnight. Anyways, God bless you all. Thank you so, so much. It's really, really awesome. Someone asked if there's a replay. There is a replay. We will send it out tomorrow. If you're not on my broadcast, reach out to me after the class. I will put it in the chat box how to contact me, and you can get the recordings weekly. We also have all the recordings on our YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is Take a Pen and Paper, and you can subscribe as well. It's CHAYAMINK. Again, CHAYAMINK, which is Chaya Mink. That's what I was called my whole life. Now my name is, that's my maiden name. So Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and God bless you all. And I hope you have a meaningful and incredible rest of the month of Elul. And you should be blessed with everything. And we should literally dance with joy together when we celebrate all the hostages coming home, and of course, Mashiach together.